Hello and welcome to your second episode of Fisher's Class Notes, Unit 1, Section 1, Episode 2. Today we're going to talk about the topography or physical features of North Carolina and the 4 regions. Our vocabulary: topography, region, tidewater, sounds, inlets, barrier islands. We call the barrier islands the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Coastal plains, sandhills, the Piedmont, the red clay, the mountains regions, and the cove. By the end of this episode, I want you to understand 2 things. 1, our cultural values and our traditions are very much tied to the physical features of the land. Our belief structure, all of it came to how we lived and used the land, and of course were developed over centuries and centuries. And 2, our economic industries of each of the 4 regions of North Carolina and of course all over the world is again tied to the our economic industries are tied to the physical features. You're not going to have shipping industry of boats bringing in stuff if it's coming in where there's no ocean. It's going to be in the tidewater. Okay, so let's look at the 4 regions. We've got, here's the Atlantic Ocean from east to west. You've got the tidewater, the coastal plain with the great soil. You've got the fall line, which we'll talk about more in class. The Piedmont, where we live, and you've got the mountains. Now, remember, in our last episode, we learned that the first migrants, the people coming out of Asia over the Bering Strait and into North and South America, they actually would have come from west to east over the Appalachian Mountains. So their first settlements were actually over here the earliest evidence that we have are actually down in this region, but they would have come over the Appalachian. Now the Europeans, of course, came by boat, so they came from east to west. Okay, our first region that we're going to talk about is the tidewater in the eastern part. The topography: sandy, flat, sounds, beaches, not very good for large-scale farming, although of course some people did small subsistence farming. And you get, of course, the barrier islands, which we call the Outer Banks. This region was the first region to be reached by European settlers when they colonized during the 16th century, the 1580s. But it was extremely difficult because it was very difficult to get through those barrier islands. You had to wait till you have a little inlet or break, and there weren't many of those. And of course, the first colony of England in North Carolina on Roanoke Island failed, and that became the lost colony. So then the English went further north into the Chesapeake Bay and founded Jamestown in modern-day Virginia. The tribes that we're going to talk about, the Algonquin-speaking tribes. Algonquin is a language that was spoken from Georgia all the way north into Canada along the shore. Some of those tribes, you get the Roanoke and the Croatoan. And today, of course, major moneymaker into this region is tourism because of beaches and stuff. But you also have, here's a picture of old Elizabeth City. You did have some shipping industries. But as you can see, it's very, very beautiful, but not great for large-scale farming. Okay, then we've got the coastal plain. This has the best soil in the state, so it's huge farming. Farming is still the #1 economic industry in North Carolina. Here's a picture of some tobacco farms. Maybe not like the best thing that we could make for our health, but it certainly made a lot of money in the colonies of North Carolina and Virginia. It is east of the Piedmont, so the Piedmont is to the west, and west of the tidewater. The tribe that we're going to talk about, Ruby, if you can be a little quieter, we're going to talk about the Tuscarora tribe, and we're going to talk about the Tuscarora actually. The topography, as I talked about, best soil in the state. But then you've got these random sandhills. It's just like what we assume is our ancient shoreline where the water used to come, the Atlantic Ocean. So you just get these pockets of sand. Well, we figured out how to make money from those too, and so we use them for military training and golf. So Pinehurst is on one of these sand hills, brings lots of money to North Carolina. Okay, then you've got the Piedmont which is east of the mountain region and home to the Catawba tribe we'll talk a little bit about. And it's got that red clay. Look at that. Like, it's not very good for farming at all. It's very, very difficult. But that clay was used to make some of these beautiful, beautiful Indian bowls. And you've also got dairy farming. It isn't, thank you, Rubish. It isn't good for growing crops. We do have a lot of dairy farms, pig farms, things like that. But we also have, of course, where we live, Durham, you've got some of the major cities. We'll talk about how they came along. But it's the location to Charlotte, our biggest city, Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro. And a lot of money also comes from the universities that came up here. A ton of great universities in this area. And of course, you get Research Triangle Park by all those great universities like Duke and UNC and State. And then you get NASCAR. That brings a lot of money to our state, like some of those places down by Charlotte. And finally, the beautiful, beautiful mountain region. The mountain regions, here's a picture of the Blue Ridge Mountain. They look blue. Of course, they're not really, but they look blue. And it is all the way in the western part. That would have been the first place that people came and settled. The topography are tons and tons of mountains. You've got the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, the Black Mountains that are all part of the Appalachian mountain chain. Not very good for farming, although now they do have some farming because we've learned how to kind of farm everywhere at this point. But you could really only farm in coves, which were sort of the valleys between the mountains. But the biggest industries, although they do have a lot of tobacco farms out there nowadays, traditionally people gather things, ginseng, things like that. You get a lot of you get a lot of tourism. You get Christmas tree farms. And otherwise small farms and hunting gathering tribes like the Cherokee. All right, thanks for watching.